This is not a review of the BMW R1200GS Rallye. This is 1 year with the BMW R1200GS Rallye. What I didn't know and what I didn't expect. So let me start with what I didn't know. I didn't know when you plug the Enduro Pro dongle in that actually gave you adjustability and some configurations on the Enduro Pro Mode. I thought that when you put the dongle in you got what you got, but that's not true. So for the Enduro Pro Mode you can have traction control, ABS, and throttle mapping adjusted to your liking. For ABS and throttle control, each individually you can choose between having the standard Enduro setting or the Enduro Pro setting. I have this set to Enduro Pro on both traction control and ABS. In ABS, Enduro Pro, I can lock up the rear. The traction control, if you don't have an Enduro Pro and you're running knobbies, it's going to intervene all of the time. It was really annoying when I first bought the bike. I was out on dirt roads and anytime I hit washboards it was intervening, so I ended up putting the plug in pretty early after buying the bike. What I didn't know, and I'm really happy about, is that the throttle mapping can be adjusted based on what I want. So you have 3 different settings in Enduro Pro Mode. You've got rain, you have road, and you have dynamic. I'm not a pro rider, I don't need full throttle from a small crack. So I set my throttle mapping to rain, which is a real slow, gradual power increase as you roll on the throttle. There's a fair amount of deadband in there so that if I get jerked around on the bike, I'm on rough roads, I don't have to worry about it jumping out from underneath me. So I didn't know that when I bought the bike. I didn't see anybody else talk about those features with the bike. I didn't know that it was configurable, so I was quite happy when I found that. So, things I didn't expect. I didn't expect to love cruise control as much as I do. I haven't had a bike with cruise control. I'm used to holding the throttle open for hours on end, but now with their cruise control, if I need to adjust the left side of my jacket, move zippers up and down, vents and stuff, I can set the cruise control, switch hands back and forth. The other thing that it does is it gives me the ability to just relax on the bike. I don't have to worry about keeping the throttle open, having tension in my hand and my wrist and my elbow and shoulders for hours on end. That's gone. It's made it a lot easier to ride all day long, day after day after day, which I didn't expect. The quick shifter. I didn't really think I was going to use the quick shifter very much. Turns out I use it all the time. After I get started at a light or when I stop at a light, I'll pull on the clutch. But other than that, I do almost everything exclusively with the quick shifter. I get a bit lazy. I'll take my left hand off as I'm cruising and just shift through the gears, shift up and down. And when I'm off-road, I typically, other than starting and stopping, and if I need to control power, I'll shift between first, second, and third using the quick shift, and that way I'm not monkeying with the clutch, having to change body position, and depending on what I'm having to do, if I need to get down into first gear and over rough terrain and it's a little bit awkward, it makes it a little bit easier. So I've really enjoyed the quick shifter, which I didn't expect. I didn't expect to want to ride all day long, day after day after day. My previous bike, the F700GS, I would ride a 250 mile day on that bike. Felt like a really long day. 250 miles on this bike is a ride before lunch, and it's easy to put 400 miles on it a day comfortably and still have plenty of time in the evening, not be worn out. And it's really made me want to do longer and longer trips, which has been great. Alright, there are a few things I didn't expect that are potentially negatives. The suspension on this bike is a little soggier than I expected in the Enduro mode. I thought that it would stand up a little bit higher in the travel and it wouldn't go through the trouble quite as much. I had seen a video of a guy taking one of these rallies on a motocross track and just railing it, hitting doubles, clearing tabletops, and I thought, wow, this suspension must be pretty good. It talks about having a little bit stiffer suspension, but I think where it's missing is the compression ratios of the car. I would prefer to have a little bit more high speed and low speed compression dampening. Low speed's fine, it's great over the bumps, but on the bigger hits I'd prefer it not to go all the way through its travel. I think the spring rates could be a little bit stiffer as well. I know these bikes are standard at 170 pound rider with what, 25 pounds of gear. I'm 200 pounds without my gear and without another 60 or 80 pounds of camping gear. So that's been something that I will make some adjustments to down the road. I will try the TourTech suspension or something like that and see what I can do with it. The other thing I didn't expect is I bought the Garmin navigation system because I didn't want to see that blank plate staring at me every time I rode the bike. And I've enjoyed the navigation system. The learning curve was really steep on it. Basecamp, the software used for routing out trips, is awful. It is absolutely awful. And I'd heard a couple other people say that too, and I thought, well, I'll figure it out. I can get through that. The problem is a lot of the off-road stuff that I want to do, a lot of the forest roads, don't show up in Basecamp. So it's really hard to map out a trip if the roads aren't there. I found some ways around it. Rever.co is a really great app for planning out trips. So I'll use that to plan out my trip, download the GPX file, upload it into Basecamp, and then I have to go back through and overlay a new route on top of what it uploaded. Because when I upload GPXs, it typically only takes the first and last waypoints, and then if it recalculates while I'm riding, then I've lost all of the route that I wanted. But I was able to sort through that. That was just a bit disappointing. For as much as the GPS unit cost, I would expect the software to be a little bit better. If you were considering buying a BMW R1200GS, or maybe the Rallye version, or one of these other big touring bikes, you need to make sure of a couple things before you do that. 1, your marriage is strong. 2, your kids don't hate you. And 3, you have a lot of vacation time available from work. What I didn't expect when I bought this bike is that I was going to want to ride all of the time. I've about burned up all of my leave in the year that I've had it, and any trip that I take is usually 2, 3, 4 nights, maybe a week. And I've done multiple trips just because I need to get out. I need to get out riding. I enjoy it so much. It's a great stress relief. I went from riding about 4,000 miles a year to 9,000 this last year, so that was a significant change. So if you are thinking about getting one of these, make sure you have the time and availability, because you will be obsessed with wanting to get out on this bike and looking for the longest trips you possibly can fit in whatever time frame you have available. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you out there.